The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.
Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
Tell you. If all of our creative people waited to be recognized in Hollywood by the Academy Awards, by the Grammys, they'd be waiting until they die.
Politics and entertainment have been intermingled since the civil rights era. As entertainers and media were utilized to raise awareness, build movements, and encourage social action. In this segment, we get politically correct, reflecting on how the entertainment industry has historically played a significant role in the process and advancement of Black communities. I'm John Covington, and this is an NAACP podcast series, Our Culture, Our Stories. And in this episode, we've got everybody's auntie, the one, the only. She's even been sampled in a song and performed the song, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted.
You know, in America, we don't have kings and queens. You are as close as it gets for our community.
You're so kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's such a generous statement. Thank you so much.
Well, I meant it, and I think everybody here in the studio would agree with that.
Wow.
We got a lot to talk about, but first I want to talk about, I mentioned that you have been sampled in a song with Jasmine Sullivan. You even performed the song on stage. You're reclaiming my time. If I were to put you on the spot
Yes.
and ask you to just say that for me, would you indulge me?
Reclaiming my time.
We can go ahead. I can quit the interview now. we're done. What else is there to say? Man, so obviously you went viral.
I did not perform. I was on the Grammys with Jasmine, and I repeated Reclaiming My Time along with some other words. But there is an artist who created the song and performs it all the time. And when I was on The View, he surprised me with it right after I had, said it. And so it is known now, yes.
Yeah. So let me tell you.
Yes.
If you're on stage
Yes.
at something like the Grammys
Yeah.
or the NAACP Image Awards or some other show,
Yes.
and you say those words,
Yes.
you're performing.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That would be considered a performance.
Okay, all
Just
right.
so you know.
Okay, all right.
But that being said, you went viral,
Yes.
and I want to know, how did you recognize, who told you that you went viral? Were you at home eating breakfast and the phone started ringing, people started texting you? How did you realize that you had gone viral just based off of something that you said in Washington, D.C.?
Well, let me just tell you, I have a very good staff. And so they know what's going on all of social media. And they keep up with it. And of course, I tweet and all of that. And so they were the ones who realized it had gone viral. And they're the ones who told me, yes.
So what was your response?
Well, that's the way it was supposed to be.
That's the way it was supposed to be,
Yes.
and you probably crossed your legs and folded your hands just like you just did.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and when I say that, that's the way it was supposed to be. What I'm saying is, it came from the heart. And I was feeling an attempt to override me, to dismiss me somewhat. And so when I said it, not only did I mean it, but I was very direct with it. And I think that it connected, And so when I say that's the way it was supposed to be, it was not something that was planned. It was not thought up, days in advance or any of that. It came right from here. Yeah.
Which, in all appearances, it looks like that's where a lot comes from with you, right from here. And we got a lot to talk about.
Okay,
And we
all
want
right.
to talk about
Sure.
entertainments and
Yeah.
the entertainment industry, and how the industry and politics
Yes.
go hand in hand.
Yes.
There probably would be no civil rights movement without entertainers. And when you think about the March on Washington,
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
a lot of celebrities, Harry Belafonte
That's
and
right.
Sammy Davis Jr.
That's right.
and Nina Simone
That's
and
right.
so many other people
right.
participated, and even Mahalia Jackson
Yes.
funded a lot of the civil rights movement. She was very close to Martin Luther King Jr. Can you speak on the connection and the involvement of the entertainment industry and politics, and how they work together to bring change?
Well, yes, I have quite a few friends that are entertainers, but I want you to know many of them come from backgrounds where they have experienced segregation. They've experienced, all kind of dismissals by people in power, and many of them were working hard to show their talent and their creativity. And so while they were doing this, they had to go through a lot, most of them. When you talk about Sidney Poitier, Quincy Jones, you're talking about Harry Belafonte, these people struggled. They were very talented, but it didn't get noticed right away. They had to work very hard to be recognized. And so they come with that spirit, that they have a responsibility not only to identify, but to do whatever they could do to help move the civil rights movement so that we could get voting rights, that we could get jobs and opportunities, et cetera. And they did a magnificent job. They gave of themselves in so many ways. You talk about Nina Simone. Nina sang that song, Mississippi Goddamn. I love that song. I want you to know that.
What's the name of the song?
Mississippi Goddamn. And I want you to know that Harry Belafonte was right there, and they did more than march. They used the money that they were earning to help Dr. Martin Luther King and to pay for things that the civil rights movement could not even afford to pay for. Cicely Tyson was there. I want to tell you, they did contribute mightily to the civil rights movement. And because of that, more attention was given to the civil rights movement. More people recognized that there were things that could be done to move us forward. And so we owe them a great debt of gratitude for what they did. Yeah.
Has some of that been lost, do you
Yes,
think?
I think so. And I answer that quite quickly because I think about it all the time. Yes, some of that has been lost. These were people who were in the civil rights movement, who communicated with Dr. Martin Luther King and others, Andy Young, et cetera. And it was not that they showed up after somebody begged them to show up and they did a thing and then they said, I've contributed. These people were a part of the civil rights movement. There are some now, and I'm not saying that all entertainers are not. There are some now, and so we appreciate them today, and we appreciate the role that the civil rights movement has played over the years with entertainment.
What do you think's missing now?
I think what's missing now is everybody's a little bit better off. And they have schedules, and they have agents, and they have negotiators. And I think everybody is so busy, and they're so tied up, and they're trying to make big decisions about how much they're going to get paid, on and on and on. And they have families too. That it's different now.
So comfort has created more of a lackadaisical, not as involved as when the struggle was greater.
It's not so much comfort as it is the lives are different and they have so many other things that they're doing. When you take a look at some of our entertainers today, not only are they on television, they're on the big screen, they're still doing concerts, they have families, they're working through marriages. I think that they are busy. I think they're more indulged in the art of entertainment and decisions that they have to make. And I think that's what keeps them from being directly involved in the civil rights movement and being available to the leaders in the civil rights movement whenever they needed them.
How did you find your voice in politics?
Well, I have to tell you a little bit about my background. I come from a huge family, 12 brothers and sisters. It was 13 of us in St. Louis, Missouri. I attended all-black elementary school and all-black high school. And I had teachers who really cared about us. And it was not as if there was a big separation between the home and the school. My teachers came to my house to see why hadn't I gotten ready to go on the picnic. And my mother would say, well, she's got her chores to do. And they would say, what has she got to do? Let me help you. I mean, they were a part of our families. They knew us very well. I stayed after school where I could practice on the piano, even though nobody was teaching me. I just saw the piano and I wanted to, help yourself. I mean, it was a different way of us growing up and being educated and having people in our lives a lot differently than the way that people are in students' lives today.
Piano? Do you still?
No, I just pick at it. Yeah, I just pick at it. Yeah.
Okay. So if we had one on set, if I had them roll one in, you could pick at it.
I would say, let me go practice.
You can practice in front of all of us.
For a long time.
For a long time.
For a long time.
In 2019, you wrote a letter of commendation to Tyler Perry, who is the first African American to own a major studio, following the grand opening of the Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. In your opinion, why was that so important to you?
Well, first of all, I started going to some of Tyler Perry's plays. And it was so interesting because if he knew I was there, he'd include me somehow in the play. And I was not only amused by that, but I thought it was so original and so creative. And I thought, and still think today, that he is a very creative person and he's willing to show some sides of our communities, particularly from years ago when our grandmothers and our muddeers were raising us. And he was willing to show that. And I appreciated that so much because coming from St. Louis, I had a muddeer. My mother was known as muddeer. And of course, we had a community where everybody knew each other and we were in and out of each other's houses. And we had a grandmother, great-grandmother, that helped to raise us. And we remember, some of the things they taught us. They taught us, for us and our family, each one of us had to learn a Bible verse by the time we were about 8 years old. And mine is Romans 8 chapter and 8 verse. We had that kind of stuff. And we had ways by which grandmothers and mothers expressed themselves that I remember today. And when my sisters and brothers and I get together, we revert to some of that kind of language, having fun, remembering what our mom and our grandmama said. Yeah.
Let's talk about the President of the United States. You recently released a statement about the coin, the crypto
Sure.
coin.
Yes. Well, the President of the United States has $ Trump, crypto. It's a man that is after further enriching himself. It is not an investment, as some people are going to think. It's not even a contribution to his campaign. It's the trading will go on. He's got the insiders who are what I call market makers, who have to drive up the amount of the coin. And at the right time, they just, what we call pull the rug. out from all of those who thought they were investing in something, who thought they were going to earn a lot of money, but the market makers and the insiders know when to pull it at a time when they can make money on it, and these people out here are left out. This president is the most unusual human being without a conscience or caring about anybody that I've ever met in my life. You cannot trust him. He is a liar. He will look you in the face. He knows that you know that he's lying, but he will lie anyway. He has done some awful things. And as I'm talking to you today, he has tried to dismantle diversity and inclusion, which I started years ago when I was in Sacramento, when I was in the California State Assembly, and which I started since I've been in the Congress of the United States. I created the first subcommittee on diversity and inclusion on that financial services committee that I got to chair. And he's trying to get rid of that. And he's shown how much he hates that. And now all of the haters who support him, they are attacking me, of course, on my tweets, but I don't care what they say. I'm not going to stop tweeting. I'm not going to stop saying what I say. He is a wannabe king. He loves Putin in Russia. He even likes Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He wants all of his billionaire friends that he's bringing into government, surrounded by Elon Musk and all of them, to run this country. They want to take it over. They stood with him at his inaugural so that they could be seen with him. That's what he likes. He likes the money, and he makes it any way that he can. He even sells Bibles. And so he's greedy, and he's non-caring, and he's dangerous. And those were his people, January 6th, that attacked our Capitol and threatened our lives. I can't say enough about what a dishonorable human being he is, and I say it every chance I get, and I hope it remains on the show.
That part. There we go. Where does the fearlessness come from? Because you're fearless. Where does that come from? And as it relates to the president, have you had any one-on-one interaction with him?
Well, let me just say, having been raised in a large family, you interact a lot with each other. And oftentimes, you're fighting for, someone not to put your clothes on and wear them, or you are competing for something. And so you learn to stand up for yourself. And of course, I had a mother who also was very outspoken and was ready for the challenge all the time. So I suppose I maybe inherited a little bit of it, but in the lifestyle that we had, I just adopted many of the ways that were in my family and with my mother, my sisters and my brothers, what have you. So yes, I am not afraid. I have no fear of anything or anybody. As a matter of fact, I make some of my family a little uneasy because when they threatened to kill me, I said, but you better shoot straight.
You did.
You don't want to leave me as a wounded animal around. And my family does not like that so much, but if I feel it, I say it.
You mentioned your mother. If you were to speak to your mother today, what would you say to her about your journey, your trajectory in life, and about America?
I would probably say I have a real appreciation for the struggle that you went through, having these children, having been married a couple of times, having us, from the oldest to the youngest, given attention by you. I appreciate what you had to go through, and it took me years to understand that. I just thought this is the way it is. This is the way life is. But you had to work hard. Sometimes you had part-time jobs cleaning somebody's house. Sometimes we were on welfare. But now I know, and I'm driven to help others who were in the same situation that we were in, and even worse. That's what my life is all about.
So do you tell her, you done.
I would tell her all of that.
You've been able to connect with people, and we talked about the viral moments that you've
Yes.
had, because you've had, it hasn't only just been one, you had more than a few
Several, yeah.
of those moments. However, they've missed some of the big appointments, even during the Biden administration.
Yeah.
So very popular, very public, but some of those big appointments have been missing. Why is that, do you think?
Well, if you're talking about appointments to, major areas of government, there has been very few presidents who make appointments that have made them as broadly as Bill Clinton and Biden. They have included a lot of people in very significant positions. Normally, all that most are willing to do is HUD, perhaps. But when Clinton was in, we had commerce, we had agriculture, we had appointments to very big, powerful committees, yeah. And it depends on the president.
I take it that you don't think that that's going to happen with this particular administration.
Let me tell you something. Trump forgot all about blacks when he was making appointments. He had to be reminded that he had not made any, as he listed all of the ones that he was naming. And then he came with someone for HUD.
How can the media help? How can the media help Maxine Waters and your mission? What can the media do to help?
Well, let me just say this. I just read an article about the journalists at CNN were advised before the inauguration not to be unkind to Trump, not to say anything that maybe would be embarrass him. Now, had no business doing that. The Los Angeles Times said to his editorial board, oh no, you cannot endorse Kamala Harris, when they were ready to endorse. And so the media, number one, must have people who are strong enough to challenge any attempt to shut them down when they're being honest, when they're being correct, and when they're being respectful. And so I think that's what's required. I know a lot of times people would like, even those of us who are willing to speak up, to kind of lower our voices or not be so confrontational, et cetera, et cetera. Courage, that's what Maya Angelou talked about. She thought that was the number one thing that anyone could have. The number one characteristic is courage. And it takes courage. And sometimes you pay a big price for courage. But unless we have enough people who have courage and who are not willing to sit in the back room while racist things are going on and walk out the back room and not share it, not tell it, and feel that their job is safe, et cetera, because they're not going to tell anybody what they learned about what was going on with those who were being discriminatory and racist. Courage is what it takes.
That courage you speak of, does the Democratic Party, in your opinion, have that type of courage? It appears that the Republican Party is pretty bold and willing to put themselves out there at whatever cost. That's what it appears. I want your
You're
opinion.
absolutely right to a point, and that is, you take Trump, for example, he has no respect for the Constitution of the United States of America. He has no respect for the way that public policy is made and the system that it goes through, from the lower house to the Senate to the President of the United States. Because he has this view of himself, that he's so important and that he's so white, that he can do whatever he wants to do or say whatever he wants to say, that he does that. And I do know that the Democratic Party is more respectful of the process, and we don't do as well as messaging and how we tell our message. Trump will tell a lie. He will jump up and tell you that Haitians are eating, from the ponds in the city, and they're eating dogs and cats. We would never tell a lie like that. We would never try to organize people around stuff like that. We have taken on big issues, and the civil rights issue is a big issue that made its way through the Democratic Party, and most of what we have that benefits the average person, working people, came through Democrats. Social Security. I mean, it's very important. He wants that. He really wants that Social Security. If you take a look at the book that was put out called 2025,
Project
and
2025.
everything they wanted to do, get rid of Head Start, get rid of the Department of Education. They want to put their foot on the necks, certainly of people of color and black people in particular. Keep us down, not have us progress. I'm working to close the wealth gap because they have systemized it in such a way that we are excluded from opportunities to earn money and to have profits. They talk about support for small business. They don't want small businesses in the banks. They don't want to be bothered. They don't make enough money off of them. And so that's our struggle, those of us who are blessed with the opportunity to represent. We must represent, we must call them out. I don't care what bank it is. They have been part of redlining. They have been part of what happened to us in 2012 when all the predatory lending took place. We lost all those homes. We have to fight. We have to struggle. We have to call them out. We have to create legislation that we think we can get through. The Republicans are less caring, less thoughtful. As a matter of fact, all of the Republicans who are afraid of Trump, they won't even admit that our Capitol was attacked. They won't admit it. They won't even admit that Trump is wrong when he said that election was stolen from them. The whole group of Republicans who are afraid of Trump and afraid they will be what we called primaried, that in their primary, he'll have his person run against them. And so they do things and they act in certain ways without a conscience, without integrity oftentimes. They claim, don't forget, to be very patriotic. How can you be patriotic when you know that Trump has led that attack on the Capitol of the United States of America, and the people who are aligned with him, the Oath Keepers, the KKK, the Proud Boys, the QAnon, these are his people. They took that American flag that they claim they're so patriotic about and went, and they not only harmed the Capitol Police, some of them are dead because some of them committed suicide, and some died from the, one or two I think died from the injuries that they had. But they claim to be patriotic, and we thought they were. We thought they were tough on crime, but he's the biggest criminal that this country has ever seen, the President of the United States with 34 convictions. And they claim that they were for law and order. Yeah, they were for it when they lock up black people and people of color. And that's why the prisons are so full of our people. And they are people, many of them, are nonviolent crimes that should be out. As a matter of fact, I thought about them here in California as they were helping to put out the fires. They don't get paid for that. They get a few pennies. As a matter of fact, it's been called slave labor. Well, I could talk about this with you all day long, the difference between us and them. I know everybody's not happy with the Democratic Party, and there are times when I'm not happy with the Democratic Party, but they're a hell of a lot better than what comes out of the Republican Party. And I'll say that, and I mean it any day, anytime, any place.
So you would say, and I think you said it at the onset in your response, the Democratic Party needs to do a better job of communicating with the people.
Oh yeah, we've got to not only have a strong, understandable message. Some of the things that I work on in my committee is not to use the language of the financial services, because that language is designed, I believe, so that people don't really understand what we're talking about when we're talking about, dealing with overall finances with Wall Street, with the SEC, with the OCC, with the Treasury, with the FDIC. We've got to use language that people understand, and I'm trying to be a part of making that language a lot clearer. So I think our messaging has to be better. And I think we have to go into communities where we stop going into the rural communities. These are people who would not have any health care, would not have the kind of assistance that they have, but for people like us who fight for resources and appropriations for everybody. And so we got to go in and we've got to let people know in some of these communities where their resources are coming from, where their assistance is coming from, who's fighting for them. Oh, they will call us big spenders. Yeah, I'm willing to spend money on people who deserve it, who are poor, who are struggling, who can't put food on the table. You can call me a big spender all you want. I think the government has a role to play. I think there's a lot of money that is spent in government that can be used a bit better, but the Democrats do it a lot better than Republicans.
We talked about DEI a little bit, and I just want to ask you, I didn't see much messaging during this last election cycle that pointed out that the biggest recipient of DEI practices have been Caucasian women. Caucasian women have benefited tremendously from DEI, but I didn't see that in any of the messaging. And so people believe that DEI is just brown and black folks.
Yeah, I do think there's a misunderstanding. And I think as we talk about diversity and inclusion, I think some people don't know exactly what we're talking about, diversity and inclusion. And that came along, later on in our struggle for opportunity. And so when I talk about it, sometimes I try to make them think about it in ways, this is about being able to have upward mobility after you've worked on a job for so long, and they hire people who come, who maybe even not as qualified, but they certainly don't have the experience you do, but now you gotta tell us what you're going to do in order to give opportunity to those who have been stepped over. You've got to take a look at the applications that are made. And when you take a look at them and you see people who have gotten educated, for example, in some of the best schools even, when you see people who have experience and somehow they get looked over, you've got to now have a reason why you did not get the best person for the job. So we're talking about taking the struggle for them being able to stop discrimination to a new level and in a new way, as we call it. We used to call it affirmative action, remember? But they killed it. And they talked about it so bad, and they made people think that it was for people who were not qualified, who were getting what they didn't deserve, and that took over. And so as we moved the discussion and talked about diversity and inclusion, we thought that would be more meaningful and ways that we could help people to understand. Now, I want you to know, many of the biggest corporations in America have developed an office on diversity and inclusion, but many of them are so glad to drop it now. Because Trump has said he's getting rid of it all. They were doing it because they had to do it. And they were in touch with us for us to give them more direction on what they needed to do, et cetera, et cetera. But I just understand Target dropped theirs right away. But they're glad now, many of them. So you will see it lost now with Trump. And we're gonna fight for it, but that's what's going on.
Does it really matter what it's called, though? some people, it was called affirmative action, you referenced that, DEI. If it was called the Green Wall, does it really matter what it's called? Isn't it more about, or is it more about the perception of who it's helping?
Yeah, you're right about the perception, but let me just tell you this. When the organized conservative community, really ultra-conservative, led by conservatives, when they attack an issue, they stay on it and they organize around it and they get more of people involved in it. And so that's what they did with affirmative action. They are the ones who got to define it. We don't fight hard enough sometimes. We don't fight hard enough to get our issues understood and well known. And they overcome us because they have controlled the media for so many years. They have had the opportunity to influence a greater for so many years. Now that we have more media, and have more people in the media, and we have the NAACP that's always led on all of the issues that needed to be led on, in an effort to help get justice and equality for Black people and people of color. We're doing better, but the Democratic Party has to get the message more clear. It has to be more consistent. It has to go in places where it's never been before, and it has to defend it.
Let's talk a little bit about the NAACP, particularly the NAACP Image Awards, which this is an NAACP Image Award podcast series, Our Culture, Our Stories. We're so glad you accepted our invitation to be a part of it. The NAACP obviously is the oldest civil rights organization in America. Where would we be, do you think, without the NAACP as a people?
Well, we certainly would have missed an opportunity to have strong leadership acting and speaking on our behalf. And because of the leadership of the NAACP and the way that the NAACP joined with getting into the court system, fighting, at every level of justice, and being able to organize and show up and confront those in government, we would never have gotten this far. We never would have gotten this far. Maybe we'd just be starting now, I don't know. But the NAACP can certainly take credit and earn credit for the leadership that it has provided, for the doors that it has opened, for those of us who have learned so much from what courage means and what it means to have a voice. I have great respect for the NAACP, and anything and everything that I can do, I join with the NAACP and join with them in lawsuits and everything else because the NAACP has been there for all of us.
How important are the NAACP Image Awards?
Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
Tell you, if all of our creative people waited to be recognized in Hollywood by the Academy Awards, by the Grammys, they'd be waiting until they die. I want to tell you, it is absolutely unbelievable how they've been able to go around this talent, even though the talent is displayed so well in the movies, etc. And they can find other than Black people to give the Academy Award to. And we still are saying we're the first here and we're the first there. And so the NAACP Image Award is us. It's about us. It's about our talent. It's about the wonderful creative people who don't get recognized the way that they should be. And when we dress up and we put on our finest and we go to the Image Awards, we are at our best. And we can applaud, we can yell out, we can see our heroes and our sheroes right there with us, and then we can be in contact with them kind of after in different ways, that's special. That's very special. I love it.
Are we going to see you this year?
Every year.
Every year.
Yes.
12 kids. And that's where you got a lot of this fight and this fearlessness in you. Which one of your siblings would you say you were closest to or have been closest to?
My
and why?
oldest. My oldest was named after my mother, Velma. And she was a very active person, but she had her own mind, and she did kind of what she wanted to do, and she dressed the way she wanted to dress. She had a sense of humor, and she got a job when she was very young, and all of those things were important to me, and I connected with them, whether I knew I was connecting or not. And she died a couple of years ago, and I realized how much I missed her, really missed her, because we all get together. We don't call them, what other people call their getting together once a year. We just get together on Mother's Day in St. Louis, Missouri. And all of the living brothers and sisters come together with our children and their children, and we have our great-grandchildren now that are coming. And so it will be, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 of us who come together, and we have, a big dinner, and we have music, and we get to tell about what's been happening in our lives. We dance, and we mimic what our mother the way she used to talk, and we have this great fun. But my sister, she could dance. She didn't care what people thought. She started wearing her Levi's years ago, before girls really was accepted everywhere in Levi's and all of that. She could sing, she could dance, she could gamble with the boys. She did whatever she wanted to do. And I just loved her for it. Yeah.
That's who you are, right?
Kind of. I wish I was as much
Yeah.
because she not only defined herself in the way that she talked and the way that she acted and whatever. She was not fighting, to get into the House of Representatives or any of that. She was just fighting to have a good life and a decent life and to help her brothers and sisters and to be friends with her neighbors. Everybody loved her. She was friends with everybody. And she was content with her life. And she enjoyed life in spite of not having a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. And so in many ways, there have been times when I wish that I was her, because there are times when it gets so unbelievably difficult in dealing with racism and the way that it harms why am I in this business? Why am I doing this? And you feel tired. And nights I go to bed, and I am absolutely exhausted. But one good night's sleep, that's all it takes. I'm ready the next day. And I keep going.
I noticed when I asked you that question, which one out of 11 siblings, you didn't even have to think about it.
No,
You just went right to it.
that's right. That's right.
Velma. Mentors. Who are your mentors, or who have your mentors been
These were
in this work?
people that I didn't know I could have a contact with. Now, I love my teachers. I had some wonderful teachers, and the teacher in the 8th grade was Miss Stokes. The teacher in the 5th grade was Miss Bond, and she was a math teacher. And she really tried hard to really get us to understand the concepts in math. Miss Stokes was there with us for everything. That's the one whose room I stayed in after and messed with the piano. So I had some teachers when I was young who in many ways were mentors without knowing they're mentors. The more I grew up and become a mature person, I watched people from afar. And there were people in public that I watched and I thought, I like that person. I'm going to be like that person. Many of them I started out in South Central LA, some of the women in the community that were fighting fights for welfare women. They were fighting with the Board of Education. They would go to the Board of Education and they would try to shut them down. They would not be shut down. Mary Henry was a name, Oprah. I mean, I remember these women, and they kind of took me in. And I had an opportunity to get to know them and to begin to work with the community. But the big public people that I got to know and appreciate were people like Barbara Jordan before me, Shirley Chisholm before me. And I worked with some of the white women in the women's movement. I worked with Gloria Steinem. I worked with Bella Abzug. And I got to know, what they were thinking, how they were dealing with the women's movement. And so I brought into the women's movement some of the concerns of Black women that may have been missed by white women in the movement that was going on. So some of the people that mentored, they were not people like young people come to me today and ask me, will you be my mentor? But we didn't have those kind of opportunities to do that. And so there were people that I was mentoring me from afar. Yeah.
What would Maxine Waters be doing if you weren't serving in Congress for several decades? What would you be doing? Would you be a piano player, or would you be doing something else? Would
Well,
you be a
I danced a lot. I mean, I'm very athletic. I swam, I danced, I did all of that. But I should have gone to law school. And what I love about what I'm seeing now are the Black women who are in strategic positions, and some of them making decisions about Trump. As we see not only what is going on in New York with the district attorney, I believe she is, and then what was going on in Georgia with, I have to think of these names, but
Stacey?
they are in more positions now as judges and as district attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to tell you a little thing that I do. I saw on the internet a picture of Black women judges in their gowns, and I started to think about it, and I thought about Michelle and what she said about when they go low, we go high. And my thing is, when they go low, Black women go to law school because they're doing such a fabulous job. And I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on names right now. But down in Atlanta, I believe it is Fannie
Willis?
Willis. I really knew her when she was born.
And then in New York, it's
Letitia James.
yeah, Letitia James.
It's Letitia James, fabulous lawyer. Little Fannie, I knew her when she was born. I had a public relations firm with her daddy. We had a public relations firm, and we were dealing with the entertainment industry and helping to promote movies in the Black community of Black movie stars.
Now, I must say, well, first of all, I want to tell you, it's not too late for you to go to law school.
Okay, all right.
It's not too late.
Well, here's what, you're absolutely right. I had a friend, older woman, she was in law school in her 90s. But I started on I worked on the Judiciary Committee when I was in the California State Assembly. I was thrown onto the Financial Services Committee as punishment when I went on to the Congress of the United States because so many were fleeing the Banking Committee, it was called, because a scandal had come out. So I got thrown on there. So I read a lot of law, and I know a lot about financial services. I work with all of those agencies that I alluded to, the Treasury, the SEC, the FDIC, the OCC, and the feds. And so I know a lot about law as it relates to the public policy that we create, the laws that they initiate, the way that they support or deny support for what we're trying to do. And so I think I didn't go to law school. I probably won't go, but I know a lot of law.
Yeah, sounds like it. But if you decide to go, we could go together and you could help me with my homework.
Okay, you want to go to law school too?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I've been.
I should have done that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too late though.
Yeah.
It's not too late. Young people who may see this, who are interested in a career in politics, what kind of advice would you give them? What would you say to young people who may see this?
I would tell them at whatever stage they are in life, whether they're in high school or they're in college, I want you to think about what you like and what you don't like. I want you to get to know yourself. I want you to listen to what other people are saying and have some thoughts about what they said and what you think about what they said. It is important to get to know whom you are as early as you possibly can. That way you can make pretty good decisions about what you want to do, or you know how to go about seeking out information that will help you to do what you think it is you want to do.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.